Kia ora, good evening. I'm Hannah Wilkins. A fiery crash near Geraldine, which killed 3 people early on Monday morning, has fire volunteers saying it's the worst they've seen in recent times.
It appears the driver of the camper van crashed into a barrier near an intersection on the approach to Speechley's Bridge. The vehicle exploded into flames on impact, killing all 3 occupants, who are believed to be tourists. Emergency services were notified of the accident around 1 a.m. on Monday morning. The fatal crash occurred on a rural stretch of road just a few minutes from Geraldine's town centre. No other vehicles are thought to have been involved in the crash. State Highway 79 was closed while the police serious crash unit investigated the scene and contractors repaired the bridge barriers, but the road has since reopened. Police are still working to identify those involved. It was one of 4 crashes that occurred within 12 hours over the country, which claimed 7 lives, prompting a call for motorists to make good decisions. In Geraldine, the South today.
Otago residents received some good news last week, with the government announcing a more positive update on the new Dunedin Hospital build. Health Minister Aisha Verrill visited the city to announce changes to a few of previously announced cuts, which she says will be the last of any redesigns for the project.
A big empty building site, still waiting to be developed. Late last year, the government revealed costs had blown out for the new Dunedin Hospital build, requiring $90 million worth of cutbacks to the design. Dunedin city councillors led a high-profile campaign against the cuts. They save, we pay. And on Friday afternoon, Health Minister Aisha Verrill visited the city to announce a partial reversal of the plans.
Our focus is on making sure that the building can deliver the clinical services we all want for Dunedin. That's been my focus as someone who trained in that hospital and someone who's worked in hospitals throughout the country.
The government's reversing $10 million worth of cuts, including reinstating an MRI scanner and a collaborative space for clinicians. The update follows a backlash from the local community, amid concerns the new hospital wouldn't be future-proof or fit for purpose. However, while that campaign may continue, the government's drawing a line in the sand.
There won't be any further redesign of the hospital. It's time to crack on with building it so that it's built in a timely way and the costs of inflation don't continue to eat away at the clinical services.
The minister also said the government would investigate the planned reduction of psychogeriatric beds and pathology space. She claims their focus is on building a suitable hospital that provides clinical services for the region to reduce the need for a redesign in the future. In Dunedin, the South today.
Gore District councillors have voted to begin an independent review into the dysfunction at the Southland Council, with the aim of restoring confidence among the community.
It follows the leaking of minutes from a recent extraordinary meeting at the council, which revealed the extent of a breakdown in the relationship between Gore Mayor Ben Bell and Council Chief Executive Steve Parry. Deputy Mayor Keith Hovell made the notice of motion for an independent review, but noted a cloud of sadness and frustration hanging over him.
A dysfunctional relationship between the Mayor and Chief Executive is not sustainable, and the detailed content of a meeting that was closed to the public appearing in the papers has questioned our trust of the people around us. We as elected representatives must come to terms with that, and we will. And we'll do that responsibly, taking into account our legal and moral obligations.
The Mayor and CEO are reportedly no longer on speaking terms, with Parry claiming the council's been paralysed with making any progress over the last 6 months. Councillors voted to appoint an intermediary to act as a go-between for the two, along with removing Mayor Bell from the committee which appraises the Chief Executive's performance, a decision the Mayor disputed.
Can't actually do that. Under Section 41A5 of the Local Government Act 2002, it states that a mayor is a member of each committee of a territorial authority. So while I can be removed, I'm still technically a member of that committee.
Councillors have asked to have a written legal opinion on whether the Mayor could be removed from the Standing Committee, meaning the tense relationships are likely to continue. In Gore, the South today.
Thousands of nurses and their supporters rallied across the country last weekend in protests organised by the New Zealand Nurses Organisation. They're calling on politicians to address the nurse staffing crisis by increasing the number of nurses and how much they're paid.
Taking to the streets. Angry healthcare workers were out in protest at 19 rallies across the country on Saturday, calling for more trained nurses. In Christchurch, around 200 nurse, health and community support workers gathered at the Bridge of Remembrance before marching through the central city to rally in Victoria Square.
It's election year to call on all political parties to fix nursing and to fix our health system, which is in such dire straits.
The New Zealand Nurses Organisation is blaming decades of poor planning, inadequate funding and neglect by successive governments, which has led to a crisis in New Zealand's health system. It's calling on all political parties to commit to funding more than 4,000 trained nurses, along with improving the pay and working conditions to retain nurses currently working in the profession.
We're thousands of nurses short, and even the ones that are working at the moment are understaffed, underpaid, overworked.
NZNO negotiator Al Deitchin says pay equity issues still haven't been addressed.
We'll continue to campaign and push the government to do what's needed to improve the situation.
The Nurses Union has launched a petition calling on all political parties in election year to commit to fixing the pay inequities and conditions to help end the nursing shortage crisis. In Christchurch, the South today.
It's been a major project for Invercargill, costing ratepayers millions of dollars and filling the streets with roadworks for over the last few years. But the City Council insists it was all worth it, marking the official end of redevelopment work in the inner city.
An early sunrise blessing on the streets of Waihopai. It was a brisk morning for officials in central Invercargill as they celebrated the completion of inner city upgrades on Est Street and Don Street. It's taken more than 3 years of work, with the shared space finally open for the public to use.
This is the opportunity for a place where people can come and spend time and actually enjoy the city, and then hopefully they'll go and do some retail therapy, they'll go and buy some stuff, but I guess that's the place. You come to town, you can sit down, have a rest, have a coffee, enjoy.
The morning ceremony included a walking whakawatea, a Māori blessing, around the redeveloped block, followed by official speeches. Invercargill's Mayor, Nobby Clark, pleased with the final outcome.
It's stunning, absolutely stunning, it really is. It's been hard for the retailers here. They've had 2 Christmas periods where they've not had normal foot traffic in, but no, this and the mall that sits behind it, or the ICL, just outstanding, really.
Speakers shared a theme of continuing the beautification and improvements in the central city, with the spotlight particularly on Wachna Place as the next focus. City Council Chief Executive Michael Day hailed the upgrades as an innovative start to the city's rejuvenation.
I think it's something that's quite different from Invercargill. If you look around the city, we haven't done a lot of innovation in relation to what we've done in our hardscape. I think this is one of the big pushes for the city going forward. It's exciting, really exciting.
The council's focus will now turn to new projects, with the aim of enhancing Invercargill for residents, while also attracting more people to visit and work in the south. In Invercargill, the South today.
Whai Akane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. A salvage operation got underway in the deep south as crews try to retrieve a fishing boat from the mudflats. And a gruelling climb up the Crown Range marks the end of the Tour of New Zealand cycle race. Tēnā koe, welcome back. As the hiking season approaches, bookings are open for New Zealand's Great Walks, with massive demand already crashing the Department of Conservation's website.
Bunks for huts at the Milford Track were released for the new season at 9:30 on Thursday morning. Department of Conservation was expecting around 7,000 users to be online when bookings went live, more than enough to fully book out the 2023-24 season. However, thousands of hopeful trampers were left frustrated, with the website crashing as it struggled to keep up with high demand. The strong interest comes off the back of the record-breaking bookings that came in for the track last season, which saw beds full within 3 minutes. But Doc insists its site isn't targeted by automatic booking bots and says many slots get re-released back into the system if customers don't complete their bookings. Some indecisive hikers may also change their mind later in the year, meaning those bunks are returned to the system. The Milford track is the first to go on sale, with bookings for the other great walks to be progressively released over the next month. Across the South today.
Residents in the coastal Southland town of Riverton had an added attraction keeping them entertained this week. A salvage operation got underway in the Jacobs River estuary as crews tried to lift a sunken boat from the mudflats.
Rising from the depths of Southland's Podokino River, this vessel, the Leanne, has been lying half submerged in the mudflats near Riverton for almost a month after suffering severe damage during a storm in late March. The boat was expected to be quickly salvaged from the estuary, but its difficult positioning, as well as insurance logistics, have kept it grounded until now.
We had two go down that day, so we got the other one out. We got it floated the same day, but this one was, the position of it was a bit more of a logistical nightmare. So yeah, hence it's taken so long to get the best for everybody concerned.
The 14-metre long vessel was ripped from her mooring lines in strong winds on the 20th of March before colliding with the town's bridge, where she sustained severe damage. The Leanne was then swept under the bridge and grounded in the Jacobs River estuary. Harbour Master Ian Cord says fortunately no diesel or oil was spilled at the time, but the current state of the boat itself is unclear.
It's been underwater for nearly a month, and the water will take its toll. It's a wooden boat. It could have, the caulking that they seal a wooden boat up with, it could be all gone, I don't know. Until everybody, it's of interest to everybody.
And the boat's refloating certainly garnered local interest. Tuesday's salvage becoming a spectacle, with many local residents turning up on the waterside curious to see the operation firsthand. The salvage team had initially hoped to get the boat out of the water by Wednesday, but Harbour Master Lyndon Cleaver says difficulties in the water have meant the salvage operations now unlikely to be completed until Friday. In Riverton, the South today.
Former Tour de France cyclist Geraldine was among the riders taking part in this year's Tour of New Zealand. The race wound up in Queenstown last week, with competitors more focused on raising money than their final results.
A gruelling climb to finish up the Crown Range as riders complete the final stretch of the 7th Tour of New Zealand bike race. More than 100 competitors tackled the 5-day endurance cycling race from Arthur's Pass through to Queenstown, travelling more than 500 kilometres across the 6 stages. The Tour of New Zealand's unique among races of this size. It caters to cyclists of all skill levels, with riders able to fundraise for charities along the way.
All the riders ride for charity, and it's a unique race because there's everyday riders riding this race, and those people have never ever ridden anything like this before, but they do it for the love of the charity, for the love of bike riding.
Cyclists could also choose to ride as a team. The Morton family from Auckland riding together to raise funds for the Neuroendocrine Cancer Charity Fund.
This is the closest thing that we could find that sort of went with her as a charity. So the Muppets, that's us, we decided to ride for Susie. And yeah, just lovely to be here and to be able to do that for her.
The Tour of New Zealand started in 2012 and has raised more than $2.3 million for a variety of charities, including the Child Cancer Foundation, the Heart Foundation and the Terra Fund. These riders now looking to put their feet up and relaxing after adding a few $100,000 more to the growing total. In central Otago, the South today.
Christchurch man Stephen Dunn is spending a lot of free time on his bike this year. The cyclist has set himself a challenge of riding every street in Christchurch after being inspired by a blind walker.
Ticking another street off his list. Christchurch man Stephen Dunn is planning to spend a lot of 2023 on his bike. He's set himself an unusual year-long challenge to cycle every street in the Garden City. The former Dunedin man says he was inspired by blind woman Julie Woods, who managed to walk every street in Dunedin last year.
I love riding bikes. I want to explore my city a bit more. So let's do all the streets. I don't know if it's been done before, but I just wanted to give it a go.
The 53-year-old is already halfway through his ambitious challenge, but admits that it hasn't always been an easy ride.
I've had a few dogs bark at me, I've had a couple of cats jump out in front, I've just avoided them.
Dunn is using a GPS mapping app to help keep track of which streets he's cycled, to try to cut down on double-ups. The keen cyclist estimates he'll clock up more than 2,700 kilometres by the time he's finished, and is already thinking about his next adventure.
I'll keep going and just keep riding, and maybe I'll start doing Dunedin next. That might be something I might plan.
He's aiming to complete his cycling trek of Christchurch in November by riding down Dunn Street in the suburb of Summerfield.
It's my last name, Dunn, so I'll be done. So that's the plan.
Done with this challenge perhaps, but with the wheels in motion for a sequel. In Christchurch, the South today.
A Dunedin Hospital worker is trying to spread his love for his favourite sport by making it more inclusive. Simon Heptonstall has long been involved in the game of ice hockey and now wants to bring para-ice hockey to New Zealand with dreams of making a mark on the global stage.
Crunching hits on the ice, these para-ice hockey players not letting their disabilities hold them back. It's a sport not seen on ice rinks here in New Zealand, but Dunedin Hospital Health and Safety Advisor Simon Heptonstall wants to take what he knows from his day job to help bring sledge hockey to New Zealand. He's always felt supportive of anyone wanting to have a go at things and is keen to make his favourite sport of ice hockey more inclusive.
The sport is for everybody, not just for, those able-bodied people.
He believes Dunedin's the best place in the country to kickstart the game, thanks to having New Zealand's biggest ice rink and the correct size for an official game. Besides sitting in a sledge and playing with two smaller sticks, para-ice hockey is played by the same rules and regulations as the normal game.
I feel sorry for goalies in para-ice hockey because the goal size doesn't change and they're actually sat in a sled, so they've got more goal to cover from lower down.
There are currently just 14 countries that play the sport, with Australia the latest to give it a go. Heptonstall hopes to one day grow the sport enough here to create a national team, with the dream of being able to compete at the Winter Olympics. In Dunedin, the South today.
Whai Yakane still to come on Southern Newsweek. Rural surfers are catching waves in central Otago thanks to a big backyard wave machine that's set up on a working farm. And dirt flies at the top junior motocross champs down south. Tēnā koe, welcome back. A dream has turned into reality for one Hawea man who's now able to surf in his backyard. Ross McCarthy has built a new kind of pool in his farm garden and has been putting it to the test.
Local surfers enjoying Central Otago's newest surfing spot, tearing up these waves in the back of a Hawea flat property. Ross McCarthy had the idea of surfing in his backyard nearly 15 years ago and has now turned this into reality with the Your Wave pool. It's an artificial surf wave built in the farm garden of his childhood home, combining his love for the water with his creative ingenuity.
I've just had a passion for water sports, surfing in general. I've never been a great surfer, but I've always been pretty good at building things. So
McCarthy claims Your Wave is the first of its kind in the world. He says other similar products only have one standard wave, but his prototype design has more versatile settings for standing waves.
And basically with the push of a button we can change your wave to be either a left or a right hander. We can make it bigger, smaller, we can make the face steeper, and we can just make the wave whatever you want it to be.
The artificial surf wave pool means rural surfers wouldn't need to spend as much time travelling in search of good waves, with a few friends helping put the new product to the test.
It was so much fun to come out here and get a wave, just perfect.
He's aiming to open Your Wave to the public within the next few weeks, once some final health and safety checks have been completed, with plans to run the operation year-round. In Hawea Flats, the South today.
The Junior Motocross Nationals ended in spectacular fashion last weekend, with the Southern event receiving praise from spectators. Hundreds of riders from all around the country took their bikes to Invercargill for New Zealand's top junior event.
Full throttle as some of the country's future motocross stars took to the sandpit track near Oretti Beach for one last push ahead of the finale of the Junior Motocross Nationals. Around 200 young riders competed in the tournament, aged between 8 and 16 years old. with the Southland weather turned on for the day at the track.
It's been absolutely magnificent. The weather's been on our side and it's been really successful. We've had great competitors.
The Southland Motorcycle Club worked alongside Motorcycling NZ in hosting the national junior competition for the first time.
We've put a lot of work into hosting this event, and many hours from our committee and our club, our families, our moto community, and of course all of our sponsors that make all this happen. Absolutely thrilled.
Vocal crowds were in full support, cheering on the young competitors across the 3-day event.
We're really happy with our spectators and our event coordinators that have put on a great event for all our riders.
Organisers say new champions were crowned in every class of the tournament. The high standard of racing and good facilities putting Southland in line to potentially host a senior nationals event in the future. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Golf is a sport known for its easygoing pace, so the last thing you'd expect to see is someone sprinting around a golf course. But that's exactly what Rob Hogan was trying to achieve when he put on a speed golf exhibition in Dunedin.
It may look ridiculous, but the faster you play this game, the better. This is speed golf, a new variation on the popular sport, focused around completing the course as quickly as possible. Rob Hogan is a 2-time speed golf world champion and travelled to Dunedin as part of a tour to showcase this unique sport, playing at the Taieri Lakes golf course.
Speed golf is running golf essentially, so it's in your interest to play not play well, play efficiently and to play fast.
The Irish athlete doesn't have a golf bag slowing him down. Instead, he carries just 3 clubs around the course in his holster: a driver, a 7-iron and a sand wedge. Hogan originally played traditional golf before being introduced to speed golf.
And people sometimes are surprised that, you can play golf really to the same standard if you're playing in 40 minutes than if you take 5 or 6 hours.
He completed the 18-hole Taieri course in just 41 minutes, with a score of 79, achieving a final speed golf score of 120.
The course is beautiful and I feel really, really great after having finished that round. Just introduce people to the concept of speed golf.
Hogan was pleased with his efforts during his southern visit and is now focused on trying to win his first New Zealand title this weekend at the National Speed Golf Open in Taranaki. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A group dedicated to rehoming former racing greyhounds has had some success in Christchurch, with a number of dogs racing to their new families. The rehoming has become a critical component of the greyhound racing industry's social licence, following a review of the industry in 2021.
These former racing dogs are now looking for a home and a new pace of life. It was the first ever market and adoption day for the boarding and daycare facility.
The greyhounds that come into our care are retired racers and they stay with us while we're training them and getting them ready to be rehomed. Then the rehoming process itself happens through agencies such as Greyhounds as Pets, who are also here with us today.
The team say the adoption process ensures each dog is carefully assessed to match their new owners. Hegarty says greyhounds are remarkably adaptable and with the right amount of time and effort will adjust well to their new environments. But many potential owners have a common misconception that greyhounds are constantly on the go.
Man, they are the biggest couch potatoes you'll ever meet, so it's a bit of a common misconception.
And while she admits greyhounds were bred to chase, they can easily be retrained not to.
In the past we've had a greyhound that went to a home with chickens, rabbits, and the chickens would jump over him.
The inaugural event proved a success, with 3 greyhounds already finding love in a new home. In Christchurch, the South Today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube and the South Today NZ on Facebook to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.